A 34-year-old line cook came into my urgent care last year with a laceration across his palm from a chef's knife that slipped while breaking down a case of chicken thighs. Clean edges, moderate bleeding, nothing dramatic. It looked like a simple cut, but when I asked him to make a fist and flex his fingers one at a time, his ring finger wouldn't fully curl. That was a partial flexor tendon injury hiding under a wound that looked completely routine on the surface. Wound care feels like the easiest thing we do in urgent care. Clean it, close it, send them home. And because it feels easy, it's one of the places where experienced clinicians get sloppy and where new clinicians repeat the same mistakes because nobody ever walked them through what goes wrong. Today, I want to talk through the errors I see most often with wounds, the ones that come back to bite you weeks later. Some are exam mistakes, some are judgment mistakes, and all of them are avoidable once you know to look for them. The first is skipping a real functional exam because the wound looks straightforward. If I had just closed that line cook's palm without testing tendon function against resistance, he would have left with an undocumented tendon injury that presented as weakness 3 weeks later, looking like it happened somewhere else entirely. Any laceration near a joint on the hand or foot or over a tendon sheath gets full active range of motion tested against resistance, not just passive movement. Passive movement can look normal even with a significant tendon injury because gravity and the exam table are doing the work instead of the muscle. And this has to happen before you numb the area because once anesthetic goes in, the patient can't reliably tell you if something hurts or feels weak. Test function first, document it, then anesthetize. The second error is irrigation that looks thorough but isn't. An 8-year-old came in after falling off her bike onto pavement with visible gravel embedded along forehead laceration. The instinct with scared kids and anxious parents is to move fast, but rushing irrigation on a contaminated wound is exactly how you end up with an infection or retained foreign body a week later. Irrigation needs a real volume and pressure to flush debris out, not just rinse the surface. I'm talking about hundreds of milliliters through a syringe with a splash guard, not a quick pour from a bottle. If the fluid isn't running clear at the end, you're not done, no matter how good the wound looks visually. And consider what's likely embedded because it changes what you look for. Glass and metal show up well on X-ray, but wood often doesn't. So a splinter injury that doesn't add up on exam deserves more exploration, not more imaging. The third mistake is treating tetanus status as a formality instead of a real question. A 52-year-old landscaper came in with a puncture wound from a rusty nail through his boot and had no idea when his tetanus shot was. Most adults don't track it. Puncture and dirty wounds change the calculation compared to clean minor wounds. More than 5 years since the last dose means a booster. The fourth error, and this one surprises people, is over-relying on antibiotics for wounds that don't need them while undertreating the ones that do. A 29-year-old was bitten by an unfamiliar cat on the forearm. 2 puncture wounds with surrounding redness, and that absolutely needed prophylactic antibiotics because bite wounds carry far higher infection risk than clean lacerations. But I also see clean lacerations getting antibiotics reflexively just because the patient asked or it feels safer. Infection risk comes from the mechanism and location, not appearance. Bites, wounds over joints, heavy contamination, and immunocompromised or diabetic patients carry real risk. A clean knife laceration on a healthy adult, properly irrigated and closed, usually doesn't need antibiotics just because it exists. Of course, everything so far happens inside the clinic, and just as many complications start after the patient walks out the door. A patient once came back 5 days after I'd repaired a forearm laceration, and the wound was red, swollen, with edges starting to separate. My first thought was infection, so I asked her one simple question. How had she been taking care of it? She told me she's been cleaning it with hydrogen peroxide 3 times a day because she wanted to keep it really clean. She was doing exactly what she believed was good wound care, and it was working against her the entire time. Repeated peroxide breaks down healthy healing tissue and slows repair, the opposite of what she was trying to accomplish. A lot of wound complications don't start with the original injury at all. They start afterward, from an incomplete exam, rushed irrigation, vague discharge instructions, or well-intentioned home care that interferes with healing. The fifth mistake is exactly that, what you tell the patient before they walk out the door. Many people still believe a wound should dry out and scab over, so they leave it uncovered right away or reach for whatever's in the medicine cabinet. And that habit works against healing in the first few days. Here's the exact plan I give every wound patient. For the first 2 days, keep the wound completely dry with the original bandage in place. No running water, no soaking, no peeking. That heavy dressing protects the wound from contamination while the edges start to seal. And disturbing it resets that process. I bring every patient back in 2 days so I can remove the bandage myself and reassess, catching early signs of infection or separation while they're still easy to manage. After that recheck, the plan changes. At home, leave it open and let it breathe rather than keeping it covered. Out and about, a loosely applied Band-Aid protects it without trapping moisture. And for ointment, I specifically tell them bacitracin or plain Vaseline, not Neosporin, because Neosporin can cause contact dermatitis, often enough that it's easy to mistake for infection. The last mistake, maybe the most common, is discharge instructions too generic to help. I tell every wound patient the same 3 red flags: redness spreading beyond the original margin, pain getting worse instead of gradually better, and any drainage that isn't just normal serous fluid. I also give an exact suture removal timeline because vague windows lead to sutures left in too long or pulled too early. Facial wounds usually come out in 5 to 7 days, hands and joints closer to 10 to 14 because of tension and movement. Think back to that line cook and think back to that patient with the forearm laceration. His tendon injury didn't become a misdiagnosis because of 30 extra seconds of testing before I picked up a needle. And her wound healed well once she stopped reaching for the peroxide bottle and started following a plan that actually protected the tissue. None of these mistakes happen because clinicians don't know wound care. They happen because wounds feel routine, and routine is exactly where our guard goes down. The exam takes 30 seconds. The irrigation takes a few extra minutes. The tetanus question takes 1 sentence. None of it slows you down enough to matter, and all of it is the difference between a wound that heals cleanly and one that comes back as a complication with your name on the chart. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next.